Hello everyone, I'm Keanu and today I'll be ranking all 9 Rocky and Creed final fights from the worst to the best. Leave your own list down below and subscribe if you enjoy. With that said, let's get started. In last place we have Rocky vs Tommy Gunn. Now I don't think any of these fights are bad sequences, they all pay off their films in really good ways. I do like that they wanted to take a risk by making it a street fight this time. And by this point you really don't like Tommy and want to see him put in his place, so it's satisfying for that reason. But when comparing a street fight to the rest of the fights, it's easily the worst of the bunch. And even though it does pay off the story in the best way possible, the story wasn't very good in the first place. It doesn't feel that victorious because the characters end up exactly where they started, only with less money now. But to this fight's credit, it does contain the most satisfying punch in the entire franchise.
Judgment, I'll salute.
Next up we have Creed vs Ricky Conlan. The original Creed is one of my favorite films in this franchise, and when watching the film the fight is entertaining to see, but it's one you don't remember much about afterwards. Maybe it's because Conlan is one of the most forgettable rivals in the franchise, but on the other hand that isn't a bad thing. This film wasn't about this fight, it was about the relationship between Rocky and Adonis. The fight didn't have much weight to it though, so it is one of the most forgettable ones. In 7th place we have Rocky vs Clubberland from Rocky 3. From here on it gets really tricky, as I think these are all top tier scenes. This one is also great, as you can clearly see Rocky using his agility against his rival. The strategy he uses is also clever by taking punches to make his opponent tired. But it does lose a bit of believability when you see Rocky taking all those punches in the face and still be fine. He also got beat pretty quickly earlier, so the gap between this fight and that one seems a bit unrealistic. Next up is Creed vs Damian from Creed 3. Another amazing fight, this time going into a very stylized route with all the cool slow motion shots. It can be a bit much at times when it goes full dreamlike, but I am glad they tried a different route and it works well for the most part. What does make this such a great scene is that the rival is great. Damian is one of the best rivals in the series and definitely one of the most brutal. It definitely shows in these fight scenes. There is also some emotional weight due to these two characters' pasts, so another epic scene. That brings us to Rocky vs Ivan Drago. Now I know this is a popular film with most of the fans and a lot of you will probably put this at number 1. I don't really feel the same way about it, but the fight scene is rather good. I love how victorious it feels when Rocky gives Drago one bruise. Then you get the line,
You see, he's not a machine, he's a man!
It's a great moment. Seeing the crowd start cheering for Rocky and Drago turn on his manager are also some memorable moments. Then of course you get Rocky's speech at the end, where he convinces everyone to end the Cold War. It's absurd, but it's fun. In 4th place is Creed vs Drago. Easily the best of the Creed fights. A lot of that comes down to the deep emotions in this scene, more so than the actual fight. The fight itself is really good though, especially when you get that bit of the Rocky theme kick in, it's super satisfying. But what it also does well is it gives you two characters that you can root for. As you really sympathize with Drago in these scenes. Then all of that is taken further when Ivan realizes that his son's safety is better than the title, and ends the fight, showing how he has developed as a character. I do wish it was executed a little bit better though, but it's still some great scenes. Entering the top 3 we have Rocky vs Mason from Rocky Balboa. This fight could have easily come in at 1st place on a payoff level because it is so satisfying. What keeps it from going higher is I'm not really a fan of the editing in this scene. It keeps cutting between scenes from the previous Rocky films and it constantly changes filters, so it's sort of distracting. But even though it has that problem, the plot behind this fight elevates it to the top 3. It returns to that underdog story of the first film by showing Rocky as the retired fighter, whose only goal is to just make it through the fight. Then when you get to the end of the fight and Rocky tells his rival that he's a good champ, it just says so much about his character. Then afterwards he leaves before the winner is even announced, because that's what the story was about in the first place. In 2nd place we have Rocky vs Apollo Creed Part 2. This fight is easily one of the best and feels like a great payoff to both Rocky 1 and 2. It does a good job of making use of strategy, as throughout the film Rocky has been trained to switch between his right and his left arm. Then here it all pays off. I also love how stressful it can be in those final 10 seconds. Even though you know Rocky is going to win, it is still really tense watching both of them struggling to get up, with a countdown in the background. But when Rocky does and the victory theme starts playing, it is so satisfying. Just such a great and victorious ending to a film. But coming in at number 1 is the original Rocky vs Creed. The first fight is still the best as it pays off that film so well. And again, like Rocky Balboa, doesn't even require Rocky to win to feel victorious. He only wanted to go the distance. This sequence is filled with many great moments, like the first punch Rocky gives immediately gets Apollo down. This is mainly because Apollo never took Rocky seriously until that moment. All he wanted to do was put on a show while Rocky came to fight.
He doesn't know it's a damn show. He thinks it's a damn fight. Finish this bum and let's go home.
Then you get the payoff of small details where Duke warns Apollo that Rocky is dangerous. As he is seen how Rocky trains in the meat factory, punching and breaking the ropes. But Apollo didn't listen, therefore Rocky was able to use this technique against him. A scene is well done if they find ways to include payoffs to the smallest details in a satisfying way. Then by the end, Apollo is announced as the winner, but it's happening in the background. You hardly pay attention to it. It's just great filmmaking. So that's why this fight comes in at number 1.